Yeah, good evening. Mai and Manik.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Sorry, there was some problem in that link, so we will start in next 3-4 minutes. I'm sharing the link to everybody. Actually, you can add Shlok.
Okay, I'll just share the link.
Okay, we'll start by 7:10. Yes, actually, we'll start by 7:10.
Yeah, sure.
We have 30 more seconds. You can start sharing your screen and those things. Yeah. So we have 4 attendees.
Yeah.
Mahi, Manik, Shlok, and Shlok. Yeah, actually, you can start.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. So let me introduce myself first. Okay, so my name is Akshay Kumar, and I've been teaching from 2015. So I have 8 years of experience in teaching mathematics. And also, we at Unblock as a team, we thought of thinking giving a demo, okay, for maths for ICSE Class 10. So today we will be giving you a brief discussion of like what all chapters that you have in 10th standard and what all things that you had studied in 9th standard that would be helpful, okay, in 10th standard, and also what all things that you actually do in each chapter. Okay, so this is what I just wanted to give everything in brief so that you will get a clear picture of what you're going to study in your 10th standard. Okay, so I'll share screen now.
Any doubts in between? People can unmute yourself and start asking questions.
Yes, is the screen visible to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. So the screen is visible. Okay, so how was your 9th standard exams?
Very bad.
Good.
Bad, huh?
The improvement is there.
Okay.
It was a little difficult.
Okay, the paper was difficult.
Yes, sir. The paper was difficult, and now I was reading my 10th grade books as well. I didn't understand anything.
Okay. Fine. Did you people get your marks? Everybody?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So probably I think, yeah, I don't want to discuss about the marks thing here. So anyway, I just wanted to know like how did you feel about 9th standard? So you all feel like okay, it was 9th standard was okay, but since the exam paper was difficult, probably you had difficulties in solving them. Correct, right? So that's what I pre-assume now. Okay. So now what we can do in 10th standard, correct, right? So now the thing is from the preparation point of view, okay, so the effort point of view, so these are the two things that you need to concentrate a lot here because there's no second chance, correct, right? Because you have to be good at your execution. So you have to concentrate on executing things pretty accurately in your final examination. So there's no scope for errors here, or the chances if you make error, so it'll cost you very badly, right? So for that particular reason, you have to concentrate on executing things correctly here. Okay. Now let me first start with what all chapters that you study. Okay. So first one would be nothing but GST. Okay. So you will be starting with goods and service tax. So here what will happen is before 2017, okay, so in India, so the number of taxes that was there, right? So it was huge in the sense there were many different types of taxes. Okay, so from state tax, from VAT, from property tax, so other taxes, interstate taxes. There was so many taxes that are actually put on different things. Okay, and considering that, remembering that, calculating that. Okay, so adding that. So it was all a hectic process. So for that particular reason, what did the government do? So they wanted to unify everything and introduce one single tax. Okay, that's what you call it as goods and service tax, and it is called as GST. Probably we would have come across this word. At least everybody would have come across this word now. Okay, so it's not anymore a new word because it's already been almost 3 to 4 years, and it's not a new word. Everybody at some places, even if you would go to at some hotel, right? So if you order something and if you see your bill, so along with some price, you will see there is GST. Okay, and you'll say that it'll amount to some amount of money, and you'll just pay that thing and come back. Correct. So in this chapter, okay, so what you're going to study, okay, so as I said, so because the old taxes were eliminated, now there is no point in new people studying the old tax, correct, right? So they have introduced this chapter so that people understand what is basically GST is all about. Okay, now in this chapter, okay, so you will basically understand the concepts like, okay, what are different types of GSTs you have. From, for example, like central charges some GST called as CGST, then state charges some GST called as SGST, then there's something also called as IGST. Okay, so that is integrated GST. Then there's in India, we know that there's something called as union territories like Pondicherry. Correct, right? Now even Leh Ladakh is also added as a union territory, right? So that is called as UTGST, or it can also be called as just UGST. Okay, so now we will try to understand individually what all these taxes are all about. Okay, like how many percentage do they charge? There is 5%, 8%, 12%, 18%. So there are some standard rates for different purpose. So we'll try to understand in this particular chapter. Okay, now what things that you need to know? Okay, so what things that you need to know to crack this chapter, correct, right? So probably in terms of calculation wise, if I tell, there's nothing much. This is very easy to crack. Only thing that you need to know, okay, from your 8th standard or from your 9th standard, the things that you need to carry forward is how do you calculate percentages. For example, if I give something like 10,000, correct, right? So can anybody tell me what is 10% of 10,000?
90 by 100 into 10,000.
Okay. Why 90 by 100?
No, sorry, 1,000.
1,000. Okay,
90 by 100 if you want to decrease it. Then
fine. So 10% of 10,000 is 1,000, correct? Any other answer, Shlok Rajiv? What is
Sir,
10% of
I had
10,000?
said 1,000. I had said 1,000, sir.
It's
1,000.
1,000.
Okay, good. Manik, same 1,000, right?
Yes, sir, it's 1,000.
Okay. Shlok, any other
Yes,
answers?
yes, sir, 1000.
1,000. Fine. So now, suppose if the bill is 10,000, okay. So I'll tell I'm adding, I'm charging 10% GST. So as you people tell, 10% is 10 by 100 into 10,000, correct? So you will be getting how much? You'll be getting again, it is 10,000 plus 100 into 1,000 is 1,000. You will tell the total is now 11,000, correct? So you'll pay this and you'll come back. Okay. So this is the type of calculation that you will be using it here. Okay. So what knowledge you need? You just need to know how do you calculate percentages of a given number. If you know that, that will be sufficient to crack this particular chapter. Okay, so you are all aware of doing percentage calculations, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. So if you're all aware, then I think then this chapter won't be a problem. Okay, the next part is the banks. Okay, so in we all know what is a bank, correct, right? So what all things that can be done? Suppose you take State Bank of India, correct, right, or any other bank for that matter. So what all operations does a bank do? Can anybody tell? So bank does number of works, right?
So one is
Can anybody
giving
tell
loan.
me? Yeah.
So I withdraw money.
Okay, withdraw money. Good. Then Shlok, Rajiv, what do we do?
Loans.
Huh?
They're able to give loans.
They're able to give loans. Very good. Mahi, what else bank does?
they have lockers.
They have lockers. Very good. Okay. Shlok, Srivastav.
We can deposit money and save.
Save. Okay. So and what all? Suppose if you want to, if you want to save money, right? So what are things that you actually look in bank? Suppose you want to save money, okay? You have certain amount of cash, and you want to save that money in bank, right? What are options that you basically look at?
The interest we get.
Okay. So you instead of like putting the money part by part, if you have whole sum of money, what you will try to do, you will tell that okay, this money I'll try to just fix deposit, correct, right? I'll tell I don't need this money for 5 years, so let it be in bank for 5 years. So whatever the interest they give me, I'll try to earn that interest along with the principal because the principal is also anyway safe, correct, right? So that is what we usually do. That's nothing but a fixed deposit, correct, right? And have you people heard about a recurring deposit? Anybody heard about recurring deposits?
No, sir.
No.
No, sir.
Okay. Fine. So this also is a very short chapter. Okay. So you even though bank does lot of works, correct, right? They do a lot of other works, as you people said. Some said locker, some said they give home loans, some said they give car loans, some said you can withdraw money from bank, some said you can deposit money from bank. You can do a lot of things, correct, right? So other than that, so there are some schemes are also already running in banks, correct, right? So where you can actually deposit your money for fixed amount of time. Okay. And here we will solely be concentrating on understanding what is recurring deposits. Okay, so we'll try to understand recurring deposits, also called as what RD, right? So I think people would have heard this name called as RD, right? So what you actually do here, so every month you try to put some money, correct, right? And you do it regularly for a period of time. For example, I can pay 1,000 rupees every month. Okay, what I'll do is I'll go on paying 1,000 rupees, for example, like 3 years. Okay, so when I do that, so what I'll do is my principal would be nothing but, so I have done 1,000 into 3 years, right? So 1,000 and 3 years is how many months? 1 year will be having 12 months, right? So 12 into 3 would be how much?
36.
36. So you will be depositing money for 36. Okay, so this is the money that you already deposited in bank. Now what you need to do, what does a bank does now? So bank will pay you interest because you have done this deposit, right? Bank will start paying you interest, and bank has certain schemes, so they can do it for half yearly, they can do it for yearly, or they can do it for quarterly. Quarterly means 3 months, half yearly means 6 months, and 1 yearly means 12 months. Okay, so you most of the time they'll do it for quarterly. Okay, so what formula there's a specific formula that they use to calculate this interest. So anyway, this formula part, so we can discuss when we do the chapter. Okay. Now you just have to calculate what is the amount. So amount that you're going to get after doing recurring deposit is nothing but, so the total principal that you invested and the interest what the bank will give you. Right. So using this formula, we can calculate what the amount the person will generate or the person will get if he does recurring deposit. So this is what we will be studying in this particular chapter. So here you just have to do what? You just have to understand how much money you have invested for how many months, and then what is the interest that the bank will pay you. So to find the interest what the bank will pay you, there is a formula. If you do this calculation, this chapter is done. Okay, so only so much is there in this particular chapter. Clear, right? So what is there in this particular chapter?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So the first two chapters, I think now you have some idea of what knowledge you have to have before, correct? Right? You just have to have what for the first chapter. If you know how to do percentage calculations, you can almost like entirely crack the first unit. There's no problem at all. In the same way, the second chapter. So if you know understand the basic concept of principal and interest, and if you're able to remember the formula, so that would be more than enough to do well in the second chapter as well. Okay, now we'll go for next is linear inequalities. Okay, so linear inequalities, and you have studied what? Solving equation in one variable. I think in probably in 8th standard itself you would have studied how do you solve equation in one variable. Right or wrong? You have studied, right? Eight equation in one variable. If I
Yes,
give you an equation called as 2x plus 4 is equal to 6, do you guys can solve this?
yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
X is equal to 1.
What is the answer? Very easy one.
X is
7.
equal to 1.
So x is equal to 1. So del 2x is equal to 6 minus 4. It is 2x is equal to 2, and you got the value of x as 1. So you people know how to solve this type of equations in one variable. Now what is inequality? So all this time, okay, or all this while in 9th standard, so we always tell an equation where we tell x is equal to something, y is equal to something, or some expression 2x plus 3 by 4 is equal to some value like 6, or 2x plus 3 by 4 is equal to 0. So everywhere you studied about equality, correct? Wherever you studied as of now, so everywhere equal sign was there. Now suddenly we are studying about what? Inequality. So the meaning of inequality is what? When I tell inequality, it can either be greater than or it can be lesser than. It can either be greater than or it can be lesser than. That's what the meaning of inequality. Here what you study is just like how when I gave an equation, okay, linear equation in one variable, how you people were able to solve and tell me the answer, right? So the same principle holds good here as well. You can operate in the same way, but there are some rules, okay, which you need to understand or which you need to remember. And also, how do you graphically represent these inequalities? If I take a number line, how will I be able to represent a particular value when I tell x is less than 3? So how will I represent that in a that in a number line? That's basically nothing but graphical representation. So the solving part is almost 80 to 90%. It's exactly the same way like how you people did now and told me the answer. It is exactly the same. Here and there, one or two rules which are different, which you'll understand when we do the chapter. And also along with that, there is graphical representation. Graphical representation is how do you draw this, how do you represent these values in a number line? So this is what you need to understand in this chapter. If you're able to do this, even this chapter is also done. I hope it is clear. Any doubts here about inequalities? Anybody?
No, sir.
No. Okay. Next is quadratic equations. So anybody what is quadratic equations?
Sir, I don't exactly know what quadratic equations are, but I know like the format of how they usually happen.
There are
Okay,
two variables, like x squared and x.
okay, x square and x are two variables. So
Like when you're solving them, they're separate. You can't.
okay, Shlok Rajiv, what is a quadratic equation?
So the quadratic equation is like when there'll be like basically initially there's mainly three values which will be there. So the x square value, then the x value, and then a literal number value.
Okay, Shlok Srivastav, what is
Sir,
quadratic equation?
I'm not sure.
Okay, so in your last class, right? So in 9th standard, so you would have learned about factorization. There is a chapter called as factorization, right? And
Yes.
you would have learned different types. Okay, so where one of the type was, so they used to give you a trinomial. So trinomial is what? Three terms, and it used to look like something like this, right? Ax square plus bx plus c, and they taught you how to solve them, right? So you people remember how did you solve this trinomial?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
By what method?
So first
With the
we
multiplication
multiply
of a and c.
c and ax square.
Okay, so I will heard about splitting the middle term.
Yes, sir. That one.
Yeah, so you have to split the middle term in the terms where the product of a and c is equal to the
Good.
product of the terms of the sum. Yeah, product of the sum.
Right. So they've given what? They've given you a trinomial. So quadratic equation is nothing but I have the variable. Okay. So there's only one variable here. Okay. So you need to understand that there is only one variable. That one variable is nothing but x. And you have x square. Okay. That basically into say what? X into x, right? X raised to power 2. That's what you mean by x square. But I'm making use of only one variable here. That variable is nothing but x. Now in quadratic equations, okay, you had learned about splitting the middle term. So the problem there is, so as somebody you people were telling, right? So you take the middle term, that is the middle term is bx, and you try to multiply the first term and the last term, that is ac into x square, and you try to break the terms, correct? Right? You try to break the middle term, and you have to find two numbers in such a way that when you add or subtract, you end up getting bx, and when you multiply, you end up getting ac into x square. And then you just try to write the two terms here, take common and find two factors. So this is what everybody would have done in your 9th standard. So it is just exactly the same. Okay, but what the problem is, sometimes you'll not end up getting factors. There are some equations where you'll not you can't basically find those numbers at all. Suppose what if the numbers are some decimals, right? If the number is like 7.33 and some 6.27, how will you find? So you can't think at a decimal level. For that particular reason, what do? We learn about formulas. So to solve quadratic equation, there is a formula. Anyway, I have learned splitting the middle term. So we will be giving you a formula here, and you will be using that formula and telling us or finding out the roots here. So that is, the formula is nothing but minus b plus or minus root of b square minus 4ac by 2a. Now, what is this b, a, and c, right? So those are nothing but constants here. So here a is nothing but coefficient of x square, b is nothing but coefficient of x, and c is a simple constant. So here all the three are constants. So I'll be using this in the formula and I'll be able to find the two roots. Okay, so how there are two roots here. So the formula says plus or minus. So it basically telling you have minus b plus root of b square minus 4ac by 2a. This is one root. Another root is minus b minus root of b square minus 4ac by 2a. If you remember this formula, okay, and then compare in your equation and substitute here, you will be able to get the solution. So this is one part of this particular chapter. You just have to remember this particular formula, substitute the values of a, b, c, and then find out the roots. And also we will be discussing about nature of roots. So nature of roots in the sense, so you will as soon as you look at the equation, right, you will be able to tell what roots are you going to get. Okay, that is whether the roots whatever you're getting are real and distinct. That is whether the roots are real and different, or will be getting both the values as same, whether they are real and equal, or you just cannot find the roots at all. Okay, you tell that roots are imaginary. So we will be able to discuss the nature of the roots as well. So this is what this chapter is all about. Okay, you just have to find out roots using formula. And for that, what if you have an idea of factorizing or splitting the middle term that you had learned in your 9th standard? So that would be more than enough to solve these problems here. Anyway, formula is directly given. Your job would only to substitute those values of a, b, and c. For instance, I can tell I'll give an example like 3x square plus 4x plus 5. So you have to write the general quadratic equation, which is ax square plus bx plus c. So just write a as 3, write b as 4, and write c as 5. And substitute in the formula, you'll get the solution. Clear, right? Any doubts here?
No, yes, no, no.
Okay, so how do you feel about quadratic equations? Is it solvable or is it difficult?
We've already done it, so I don't think it'll be difficult.
Okay, good. The next part of the chapter is nothing but also there are word problems. So these word problems will test you like how will you able to interpret a real life situation. Okay, so I'll give you one real life situation and I'll tell I'll tell that in terms of a problem. So we're just trying to we're just trying to see how you people able to form equation, how you people are able to arrive at a quadratic equation and then solve them and then tell me the answer. So this is what they are looking at. So you know how to solve the equation, but here from the word problem, okay, so where they'll give you some real life problems where you can use where it is applicable, wherever it is applicable. So they'll give you one situation or one problem where they're expecting you to form equations. This is very important. If you're able to understand the situation and form equations, so this carries like the first part, this carries the first part here, and after that solving you can directly do using formula. So this will take some time to understand some real life situation type of a problem that would be difficult in the initial part, but when you start doing more and more, right, so this will also become easier. Next is your ratio and proportion.
So,
Yes.
so can you tell an example for word problems of quadratic equation?
Yeah. So now word problems in the sense I'll give you a case. Okay. So I'll give you a case like there is a train. Okay, so you can go, for example, you stay in place A and you are traveling and you need to go to some other place, and I'll call that particular place name as B, and you need to travel. Clear? Now what will happen is there are two options for you to travel. So one, you either can travel by train or you can travel by car. So I'll give you these two options, travel by train or travel by car. Now while the case is, if you travel by train, for example, if you leave at 10 o'clock, so train has a standard time, it will take you at 6 p.m. in the evening. So it needs some 8 hours. And if you travel by car non-stop, you might end up reaching that place in 7 hours. Now in this example, okay, so I can actually find out, I can tell that train travels at a fixed speed. For example, the average speed of the train is x kilometer per hour. It is traveling at x kilometer per hour, for example, either 60 or 70, and your car would be traveling like plus 10 or plus 20 more than your train. So I can tell that it is x plus 10 kilometer per hour. So you can form equation, okay, in terms of I'm talking about in terms of time, right? So I don't know what is the speed of the train here. If I'm able to find the speed of the train, I can understand what is the speed of the car as well. So here x is my unknown. So to solve this x, what I do, I have to form an equation. Okay, that equation involves what? Quadratic equation. So solve this quadratic equation and you can get the solution. So this is an example. Clear?
Yes, yes, agree.
Yeah. Next is ratio and proportion. So here in ratio and proportion, you can actually expect one 4-mark problem. Always they'll ask you one 4-mark word problem from quadratic equations. So this is important. Next is ratios and proportion. In ratios and proportion, you have what? I'll tell that some example like A by B is some ratio. What do you mean by ratio? Anybody?
So it's basically a fraction.
Basically a fraction. Okay. So in how do you represent it? Like for example, I've written it as 10 by A by B, right? Suppose if I have 10 by 18, correct? So I can also tell it as 5 by 9, right?
Yes,
Yes,
Can I
sir.
tell it? Yeah. Now when you tell ratio, right, you're trying to express it as what? You're trying to express it in the last simplable form, or in the last simplest form. So where you can't further cancel. For example, 5 and 9 you can't cancel further, right? So I could have had 100 and 180 as well. The values whatever that I got, it could have been 100 by 180. It could have been, for example, it could have been 90 and some number. Okay, it could have been 90 and 162. It could have been anything, correct, right? So we call it as ratio when we try to express that number in the most simplest form, and the form in such a way that you can't reduce further. So that is what the meaning of ratio is here. Proportion, okay, ratio and proportion, what you study is, I have two quantities. Okay, I have two quantities here. So I'll call the first quantity as a by a and b, and if I divide both of them, I'll get a ratio called as a by b. Similarly, there are two more quantities, I'll call it as c and d. If I divide them, I'll get c by d. So when do I tell they are in proportion? When a by b becomes equal to c by d, we tell they are in proportion. So here we will be learning what all properties, okay, what all properties of proportion that are there. So we will be discussing about properties of proportion, and you will have problems on this properties of proportion. That's it. So how do you represent proportion? That is, you'll write it as A is to B. Okay, then you write double colon here and write C is to D. So this is how you represent a proportionate values of proportion. Here what do we learn is, we learn certain properties associated with proportion, and we'll be solving problems based on that. So that is it in this particular chapter. There's nothing else is there. Clear, right?
Yes, sir.
yes.
Okay, good. Next is factorization of polynomials. What is a polynomial?
So is it an equation with multiple terms?
Equation of multiple terms. Like in what way they're like in what way there are multiple terms? Is there any general form?
I don't know.
Okay. So now you had learnt about algebraic expressions, correct, right? So let us restrict the use only to one variable. So we had learnt about quadratic equation there. If you equate it to when the expression equated to zero, so it is becoming an equation. If you don't equate it to zero, it'll remain as an expression only, correct, right? And there it was called as quadratic equation because the variable power whatever you had, right, was raised to power 2. So that's why it was called as quadratic. If it was raised to power 3, we used to call it as what? We can call it as cubic, correct? So there is a general form to represent a polynomial. So the general form would be nothing but your last term would be nothing but some constant, and then it will go in an increasing order. That is, if you take only one variable, so you will have x here, you will have x square here, you will have x cube, you will have x power 4, and it goes on like this. And I can start calling this as a1. I can call this as a2. The coefficients here I can call this as a3, and I can call this as a4, and it goes on. Now here what you do is, so how do you find factors? Okay, so if you want to find factors, what you need to do? You need to do division. So I'll tell that you can divide one expression by another expression, and you had already learned how to do the division. Correct, right? Have you learned division of an algebraic expression before?
Yes, I need.
Yes, in
You
eighth.
already learned how do you divide. So when I give you two expressions, one in the numerator and one in the denominator, so you know how to do the division. Okay. Here what you learn is, so you will be learning about remainder theorem and factor theorem. So what does the role of this remainder theorem and factor theorem is it's pretty simple. So this theorem will help you in getting those values instantly instead of doing this long procedure, correct, right? Any number if I give you, for example, if I ask you to divide 10 by 4, so what you will do 10 by 4, you will do 4 2s are 8, and then you will write the remainder is 2. So 10 can be represented as 10 is equal to, it is 4 into 2 plus 2. Here 10 is what we call it as, what is 10 called as?
Dividend.
Dividend. What is 4 called as?
Divisor.
Divisor. Here this 2 is called as quotient, correct? And this is called as remainder. So the same thing is applicable for expression as well, right? If I tell my dividend is some expression, some polynomial called as p of x, I'll call divisor as some polynomial called as g of x. And then there is a quotient. I'll call that quotient as q of x. Plus there is a remainder. I can call the remainder as r of x. So this is the general rule for division that what we have. So here using remainder theorem and factor theorem, so we will be able to get the remainder directly using the remainder theorem, and also we can get factors. Okay, so the questions will be framed in such a way that use factor theorem. So they'll give you a certain polynomial. So they'll ask you to find a certain constant. For example, if I tell ax cube plus 4x square plus 6x plus 3, they tell that it is divisible by some factor called as x minus 2, and they expect what is the value of a. So this type of questions you will be expecting here, where you just have to understand what does remainder theorem tell and what does factor theorem tell. If you're able to understand that, you can use the theorem and find out this type of values what they ask for. Find the value of a, find the value of b, or you can have two unknowns and two equations. So they'll frame you such type of questions, and that is what you will be learning here. So in factorization of polynomials, how to effectively use remainder theorem and factor theorem and apply them and solve this type of problems. Clear? So this is what you do here. So when we do the chapter, you can understand how this can be done. So it involves some calculations initially. Okay, but it's not so hectic. It actually can be done pretty easily. You just have to put one numerical value and get the value. That's it. So this is also quite easy in that particular matter if you tell. Next is matrices. Probably this is what completely new concept. Okay, for everyone. So you'll be learning matrices for the first time. So you will understand, okay, what is a matrix? Okay, how do you write matrix? So matrix will be nothing but what are rows, what are columns. So you can tell A, B, C, D. Okay, so your horizontal, the elements you represent them in an horizontal line are called as rows, and elements that are represented along a vertical line are called as columns. So you will understand the basic definition of matrix. Then how do we do addition in matrix? How do we do subtraction in matrix? And how do we do multiplication in matrix? Okay, so because there are such elements, right? It is not the conventional addition or subtraction. What do we do? It's almost same for addition and subtraction, but the rule is different for multiplication. So these are the things that you will be learning here. So you will be able to identify understand what is matrix, what are different types of matrices are there, what are rows, what are columns, that are basics of matrix, and you will be able to given addition, you will be able to add two matrices, you will be able to subtract two matrices, and you also be able to multiply two matrices. So this is what we will be studying in matrix chapter. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Next is arithmetic progression and geometric progression. Again, a new chapter, okay, which you have not learned in your ninth standard, okay, or there's no connection to your ninth standard or any previous classes also for that matter. Now, what is this arithmetic progression and geometric progression? There's something called as why do we call it as progression? Okay, why do we call it as there is always certain numbers, so they will have certain sequence, and they're writing that number in a sequence. They'll have certain rules. They'll follow a specific rule, and then they'll start writing. Okay, so any sequence, if it follows a certain specific rule, okay, then that particular thing, whatever we get, that particular sequence, whatever we get, is called as progression. For example, if I tell like the first number to be 10, I'll tell the next number as 20, I'll tell the next number as 30, I'll tell the next number as 40, I'll tell the next number as 50, and it goes on like this. Now, the rule whatever I am following is every time I'm increasing by 10, and the 10 is what? Constant here. The 10 is what? Constant. You can see there is a sequence of numbers that I've written 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. And to write these numbers, there is a certain rule that I'm trying to follow. What is the rule that I'm trying to follow? Every time that I'm increasing by 10, or the difference between every two consecutive numbers you see, there is only 10. So I'm trying to keep this difference of 10 constant throughout the sequence whatever I write. So the sequence which follows certain rules, and the rules will be strictly followed. So such type of sequence is what we call it as progression. Now, what is the difference between sequence and progression? That also you can understand and ask, right? For example, I can tell like 1, I can write 4, I can write 9, I can write 16, I can write 25, I'll write 36, 49, I'll write 81. So here also I'm trying to write the number in a systematic way. And the concept that I'm using here is, so this is like in my head until the first number is 1, I'm writing 1 square is anyway 1. The next number is 2, I'll write square of that number, 2 square. The next number is 3, I'll write 3 square. And next number is 4, I'll write 4 square. So this is the thing that I'm trying to follow. But if you see here, right, the difference between the numbers, you can observe that it's not same, it is completely different. Correct. So whereas in a progression, you can clearly identify a particular pattern. Okay, so where between two consecutive numbers, you can try and see the same thing or same relation that is existing. But in sequence, there is certain rules, but the way they appear, right, or the way they appear or the rules what they follow would be different. So that would be the difference between sequence and progression. So here we will be learning about arithmetic progression, and we will be learning about geometric progression. So we have to be specific in understanding what rule does an arithmetic progression follow, and we have to be specific and understand what rule does a geometric progression follow. If you're able to do that, so even this chapter would be done. So here, what else we learn? So once we identify the pattern, so the questions would be framed in such a way. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, somebody will suddenly will ask you, what is 3392nd term? Correct, right? So if what is 3392nd term? I can't write like 10, 20, 30 up to 3392 times and then tell the answer. right? So for that particular reason, what do we do? So there are certain relations or formulas which we use, like this a n plus a into n minus 1 into d. So using these formulas, so they'll frame questions in such a way you should be able to tell that particular term using these formulas. So that such type of questions will be asked. And also they'll ask you when we have there is an AP, when we add the first four terms, what is the answer? So that is nothing but sum of terms. So there are four terms here, 10, 20, 30, 40. So when I add, what is the answer I'll get? 10 plus 20, 30, 30 plus 30, 60, 60 plus 40, 100. So I'll tell sum of the four terms is 100. So the questions will be asked in such a way, identify which term exists where, and they can also ask what would be the sum of the all the terms that is existing. So these are the two formulas that they on which the questions will be framed. This is applicable for AP also. This is applicable for GP also. But the difference would be because the rules are different, formulas would be different for AP and GP. But we will be working along the same lines. So any doubts here about progression part, what we need to study?
No, sir.
Okay, and this one you have not studied previously. So all these concepts of AP, GP, right? It basically tests your basics of mathematics, like how do you add, how do you multiply, how do you find the value of the unknown variable, all that. But the concept is relatively new. So you will be learning these concepts only for the first time. AP and GP and matrices, these are all new concepts that they're trying to introduce you here. Okay. Next is coordinate geometry. So you people already know, right? What is x-axis, what is y-axis, and if you locate a specific point, if you locate a specific point, for example, like you have point A here, point B here. So I'll tell the coordinates of point A as x1, comma y1. I'll tell coordinates of B as I'll write B here itself so that both remain positive, x2, comma y2. Now, how do you find the distance between them? There is something called as distance formula. So you people are aware of distance formula?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So in coordinate geometry, if I have a point A and it has coordinate like x comma y, what is this x called as and what is this y called as?
X1, Y1.
That's just a name, but there is a specific name for in coordinate geometry. If you draw x-axis and y-axis and locate a point, there is specific name for x and there is a specific name for y. What do you call it as?
Sir, I know the name, but I'm just not getting it right now. Sir, like the tip of my tongue. I'll think for a second what and see.
Yeah. Shlok Srivastav, any answer?
Sir?
No, there is one more Shlok here.
No, I know. I was just asking whether what I'm thinking about is correct. Is it something like antecedent or no, not that.
No, not
Uh,
antecedent.
no, it's I don't remember.
Okay. Manik,
So I'm not sure with the answer.
Mahi,
Sir, I'm not sure.
okay, Shlok Srivastav.
Sir, I don't know.
Okay. So you have heard about abscissa and all,
I remember what it was.
what it is?
The x coordinate was abscissa. Is
Clear,
that what I'm searching for?
correct,
And the y coordinate is the ordinate.
right. So x is called as abscissa and y is called as ordinate. So in your 9th standard, you had learned like how to draw this x-axis, y-axis, mark points on a graph sheet, all this, right? How when you mark 4 points, how do you draw square, rectangle, finding its area, drawing triangle, finding its area. So you would have done all this part. Here, what you learn is, so you'll be learning about how do you divide if in case I have 2 points A and B, I'll join them by a line here. And if in case if I divide this line AB by another line, I can see there is a point of intersection. I'll call this particular point as P. Now, whatever the ratio that you divide, right? It can be in any ratio. It can be in any ratio like M and N. I'll take like for example 2 parts this side, 1 part on the other side, or you can have 3 parts here, 1 part here, or you can have 1 part here, 3 parts here. There will be some ratio with which you are actually doing the division. So what you will learn here is you will learn something called as section formula. So they will give you the coordinates of A, they'll give you coordinates of B, and they'll give you the ratio also. What ratio you're trying to divide the line, but they're expecting you to find what is the coordinates of P. At P, what would be the coordinate values? So this is what we call it as section formula. That is what you will be learning in 10th standard. And also, if you divide this in the ratio of 1:1, that's basically what midpoint, correct, right? If you draw the line exactly in the middle, you have A here and you have B here. If you draw the line exactly here, it will become midpoint formula. So you will also learn how do you use midpoint formula, right? What is midpoint formula says? How do you find the coordinates of the midpoint when you join those 2 points A and B and you bisect it with a line? So what are the coordinates of point P? So these are the two formulas that you will be learning here. So the concept is only so much. They'll give you 2 points A and B. They'll give you the ratio of division also. You just have to identify what are your coordinates. And if it is exactly midpoint, what is its coordinates? If you're able to do this, you are done. So this is about this chapter of coordinate geometry. And also you will learn about reflection. So this is about mathematical reflection, not about the conventional physics reflection you have, correct, right? In physics reflection, how do you tell? For example, if you stand in front of a plane mirror, what do you observe? You're standing in front of a mirror. What do you see? You're standing here, for example, point A. So what are the things that you observe basically when a reflection happen in a mirror?
So lateral inversion, like
Okay, what is lateral inversion?
suppose if you're holding a coin in the right hand, the mirror
Okay,
will be holding it in the left hand. So
So
that is good.
the image will be inverted.
Image, oh no, image in a plane mirror. Plane mirror image won't get inverted, right? Lateral inversion happens. That you would have observed, right? If I
Yes.
open left hand like this, it'll show right hand there. If I show right hand like this, it'll show left hand. For example, whatever that you can see, you people can see me, right? I'm actually lifting my right hand, and it looks like left hand to you people. And I'm lifting left hand, it looks like right hand to you people, correct?
yes, sir.
And what is one more thing that you observe? The main thing that you observe in plane mirror reflection is if your object is 2 centimeter in front of the mirror, you also observe the image is 2 centimeter behind the mirror. Correct or wrong?
Yes, sir.
So whatever might be the object distance, so your image will exactly be on the other side with the same distance on the other side. So here mathematically also it has an application like you will also be able to see how points get reflected. So you'll also learn about, so again there is x-axis, there is y-axis. So if there is a point here, if reflection happen on x-axis, what will happen? Obviously the x value doesn't change. X will remain x, but y has changed. That is y has become minus y. So you have to draw these points in a graph sheet. And when they ask you a specific point, what is reflection in x-axis? They'll ask you what is reflection in y-axis. In y-axis, what will happen? In y-axis, the value of y will remain same, whereas the x value will change. It will change from positive to negative. And there will be reflection through origin as well. Again, here also what will happen? So if it is x comma y, this will be minus x comma minus y. So they'll be asking you questions to plot these points in a graph sheet. Okay, so this is also another part that is there in this chapter. So what knowledge you need to have in 9th standard? The knowledge of understanding what is coordinates, what is abscissa, what is ordinate, how do you mark points in a graph sheet. If you have this knowledge, that is more than enough to solve this chapter here. It won't be too difficult, right? Next is equation of a line. Now, what is a line? Okay, again in the coordinate geometry system, right? So I'll draw one line, something like this. Now, what do you learn here is you learn what is the slope of the line. Slope is basically what is the angle made by the line with x-axis. So I call this angle as theta, so we will be learning what is slope of a line, how do you measure slope of a line, and once you measure slope, how do you find equation of that line? How do you find equation of that particular line? And what are the conditions when two lines are parallel? What are the conditions when two lines are perpendicular? So this is what you would study in this part. So this is also slightly new to you people because you have to draw a graph or at least understand the conditions and then do problems. So this is a new concept that you will be learning it for the first time, that is equation of the line part. Next we'll go for the geometry section here. So in geometry section, have you people learned what is congruence?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, what do you mean by what are congruent triangles?
So the
Equal
triangles are the
triangles.
same size.
Similar triangle.
You can answer one by one.
Similar triangles.
Okay, no, you're learning similar triangles for the first time. Yeah, Shlok Raj, you can answer.
Sir, congruent triangles are like when you have two triangles which are congruent, you can take
Okay,
one triangle and superimpose on the other triangle, and it'll be exactly the same.
good. Manik, what are the criterias of triangles to prove they're congruent? What all criterias are there to prove they're congruent?
So there's RHS,
Okay.
SAS, then there is AAS,
Hmm.
ESA,
Correct. Then,
and then SSS.
okay. Mahi, what is CPCTC?
So after you prove that the triangle is equal, then you can prove if the sides of the triangle are equal by CPCT
Okay, what
or
does the
that
full form of CPCT?
CPCT. 1 second. Like corresponding parts of congruent triangles.
Okay. Like, Manik, what do you mean by corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent? What do you understand by that? Shlok Rajiv, what do you understand by that? When you tell
Um, Yeah, so what they're saying by corresponding parts of congruent triangles is that since the two triangles are like perfectly equal, that means that suppose I have the triangles ABC and PQR, then AB should be equal to PQ if like
hmm,
I'm not very sure how to do it without showing you that they are all aligned properly like that. But basically, what I'm trying to say is that if you put them in the way such that they will be able to superimpose on top of each other, then that means like the angle PQR should be equal to the angle ABC, and then like AB should be equal to PQ and things like that.
okay. Mahi?
It means that the corresponding sides angles are equal of the two triangles which are congruent.
Okay, what about Manik?
So once you prove the two triangles are equal,
Hmm,
so suppose if you take ABC and PQR, angle
okay.
B will be equal to angle Q,
Okay.
like that.
Fine. See, basically what will happen is why the purpose of using the criterias are nothing but every time you can't satisfy all the six cases. As you said, even you superimpose, they're exactly identical. If I tell A, B, C and D, E, F, so there are few criteria that are enough. For example, if I am able to tell sides are equal, that's enough to tell they're congruent. I need not tell about angle part also. Angle A is equal to angle D, angle B is equal to angle E, angle C is equal to angle F. Even though there are six conditions to verify, so verifying any three conditions would also be able to tell the two triangles are congruent. So CPCTC will help you that if you show two triangles are congruent by any way, like for example SSS, SAS or ASA or AAS or RHS. By any way, if you're able to tell, so the remaining unproved side will also or should be equal to each other because they're congruent. So for that, we use a statement CPCTC, that is corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. So if I am able to show AB is equal to DE, BC is equal to EF, and DAC is equal to DF, if I'm able to tell this, and these two triangles are congruent. Now, what about the angle part? I can also tell angle A is equal to angle D. How can I tell that? I can tell by using saying the statement by CPCTC. Okay. Now here in similarity also, so you have, since you have already, people have already learned what is your how do you prove two triangles are congruent. Here you will be learning how to show or how to prove two triangles are similar. So when do you tell two triangles are similar? So when they have exactly the same shape, but they might not have the same size. In congruency, they were having same shape and also size, same shape and same size. Whereas here they will be having same shape. They will be having same shape, but not same size. That would be the difference. So when I tell same shape, angles would be same. Angles will always be same, whereas the lengths of the sides would be different. And you'll be learning about a theorem called as BPT, basic proportionality theorem. You will be learning about basic proportionality theorem, and you'll also be learning about axioms, like in what way can you tell the two triangles are similar. Similarly, SSS, SAS and AA, these are the three criteria you will be learning. That's about the similarity chapter. Clear?
Yes, sir.
No.
Yes, sir.
So again in the geometry, okay, so you need to learn about, there are constructions and there are circles. Okay, you will be dealing with chord, arc, and that corresponding properties. What are circumscribed circle, in inscribed circle, what properties they possess. So you will be learning about these as well, and also you'll be learning about what are tangent properties, what are secant properties. So combining everything. So all the geometry part. Okay, so where they'll give you figure, they'll using properties. You need to find angles, or you need to verify certain conditions, or you need to prove something. So such type of questions will be asked in circles. And anyway, your constructions, you will be learning how to draw uh, lines as a ratio. For example, like you will be learning about how do you draw circle with tangent, or you will be learning about how to draw similar triangles. So all this construction you would be doing here. Okay. Next is your mensuration. So mensuration part, you are all aware about cube and cuboid. I think everybody, you people have done about cube and cuboid. So you will be concentrating more on how do you find lateral surface area, that is curved surface area, total surface area, and volume of cone. And you will be learning about cylinder also. You will be learning about cylinder, again curved surface area, total surface area, volume. Again, you'll be learning about sphere as well. So sphere, what is total surface area? What is volume? So this is the mensuration part. Again, you will have what? Word problems. So some application problems. So they'll ask you. So you need to use, like you need to know. You have to understand the figure. What are they trying to tell, and then what area they're trying to ask. So based on that, you will use formula and get the solution. Okay. So this is about your mensuration part. Then you have trigonometry. So the last is you have trigonometry, statistics, and probability. So trigonometry, you already learnt about, you people are already aware of ratios. Correct, right? Are you people aware of ratios?
Yes.
Okay, trigonometric ratios, basic definitions of trigonometry. What is sine theta? Given a right angle triangle, so you people should be able to, where is my acute angle? Okay, if you are able to identify where is your acute angle, only then you will be able to identify what all your sides you have. Okay, if you go wrong in identifying the acute angle, the ratios would be, what ratios you're trying to get right would be wrong. So always remember, this acute angle will define which side is your opposite and which side is your base. For this triangle, this is your for this triangle, acute angle is at C. So opposite and base would be this. Suppose if I take same right angle, but the acute angle is at A, then opposite to this is this. I'll tell this as opposite, this as base. Anyway, hypotenuse won't change. Clear? So based on this ratios, you would have learnt about standard angles. Here we will be working on certain proofs, proof type of questions. Okay, where you make use of basics of trigonometry and basics of trigonometric identities. And major application of trigonometry, we will be dealing with heights and distances. So we will be dealing with major application of trigonometry. That is, how do we find? Okay, so we can't keep tape and measure height of the building. Okay, so if the person is somewhere here, if we know the angle of elevation, we can actually tell the height of the building. So to do such measurements, trigonometry is very much helpful. So for that, how do we use that as an application? How do we find angle of elevation? Suppose somebody is seeing top of a building, is looking up, is that's basically elevation. In the same way, somebody is on top of an apartment and is looking down to some car or something here, and that is called as angle of depression. So you will be studying about angle of elevation, angle of depression, how do you find height, and all those type of problems here. Okay, next is statistics. In statistics, you people were in ninth standard, you people were worried about finding out mean, median, and mode for what type of data. So you will be you are more so of worried of writing it for like an ungrouped data. So you have learned how to find mean, median, and mode for ungrouped data. Here in 10th standard, what do we do? We'll go one step further. So when the datas are grouped, okay. So when the datas are grouped, how do you find mean, median, and mode? Okay, so that is what we will be learning in 10th standard. And then there are certain graphical way as well. So to find median, there is something called as some graphs are there. So where it is called as ogive. So we'll understand how to draw ogives, how graphically you can find out the median value. This also we will be learning here. And the last part is nothing but probability.
So,
Yes.
so can you give an example of how like a grouped data question would look like?
Yeah. For example, like suppose if you have written maths test, you written maths test, and what do we do is we'll tell okay between 0 to 10 how many students are there. Then let us consider a case where the marks can be the least marks a student can score is 0 and the highest marks a student can score is 100, and there are some in your entire school probably there are 5 6 sections and there are 500 or 600 people writing the exam, and if that is the case, there is a possibility that some way or the other way around you would have encountered a multiple number of times a specific number. Correct, right? For example, many people would have scored 60, 60, 60. Many would have scored 90, 90, 90. Some would have scored 85. Some would have scored 86. So we can all club them and group them. Okay, so I can tell from 0 to 10 how many students have scored. So I'll put them here. I'll tell next 10 to 20. Then I'll tell 20 to 30. I'll tell 30 to 40. And I'll go on like this up to 90 to 100. So this is what group data. I'll get to know how many students are there, right? So from this, I can find out mean, I can find out median, I can find out mode also. So this is an example of grouped frequency distribution table, and they'll ask you to find mean, median, and mode for this type of problems. Clear?
Yes, sir.
And last one is nothing but your problems on probability. So here you would have learned about in a simple way. Okay, so like what is favorable condition, what is sample space. So if you do a certain experiment, right? So what all conditions that are favorable and what are conditions that are not favorable. You would have done some problems based on it. So here also you will have that continuation, and with the introduction of few more concepts like the experiments, whatever they try to introduce is dice, about cards, and they'll try to ask complicated problems on this dice, cards, and the way you can calculate probability, right? They'll add a little more complex situation and they expect you to find probability values. So that is what you will be learning here. Okay, so one single event they'll give you, and even though the event is single here, but the parameters or the experimental results might have different results. So you need to consider those and get the solution. So this is anyway easy chapter probability, and you can easily do it. So this is about the entire revision, okay, like entire thing that is actually covered in your 10th standard. Clear? Any doubts?
No, sir.
So okay, what do you guys feel is how do you feel about 10th standard now? You people got an idea like what all things that you will be studying this entire year?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, so I know like some of the concepts, right? Some of them concepts are new, very new to you, and some are just carry forward of your 9th standard. So you just have to keep your 9th standard basics pretty accurate and then attempt your 10th standard. And what all new things that you are doing, okay, so just practice them, just focus on that a lot. And once you get that knack, right, you'll easily be able to crack it. But again, consistency is the key here in this year. So as long as you do it consistently over a period of time, so you will be able to crack the exam effectively.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you so much, sir. I think like this was a different kind of a thing where you have covered all 25 chapters. Like I can't imagine so many chapters are there. And you have given a complete idea so about to the students about every single chapter, right? So that's a very good thing. Please don't get overwhelmed by the overall subjects and those things you have. But try to see, as Akshay sir told, like the consistency is the key, like here in this thing. And again, why did we do this? Is because you have 1 or 2, 3 days, right? Whatever you have, you will understand what all things are required going ahead. Okay, these all things are required. I should have concentrated a bit more or something like that, right? Whoever have got trigonometry questions wrong in your exams, please go back and look into it and try to correct those things. Okay, so that was the thing. So not to really getting overwhelmed or so thing, because this is a complete year journey what you will be doing. Okay. Okay, so can you one by one please tell me the review, like how was this session? So that because you met Akshay sir for the first time. Yeah. Okay, let's start with the Shlok, Rajiv. Yeah.
Sir, I felt that this session is actually quite good because we get like some idea of what are we going to be having to face next year. And Akshay sir already he gave like sort of brief thing on what the chapters will be, which is what I found good because now I know what I'm going to have to face ahead. And I also felt that he seemed very knowledgeable about like the topic and how what kind of questions are going to be coming as well.
Yeah, so he'll be handling the mathematics for the complete year. So the reason being Akshay sir handling is the same thing. So tomorrow, actually, we have a physics. So tomorrow we have for physics where I'll be showcasing my physics teacher as well, where you will understand how knowledgeable the teacher is, and also you will be having that one-on-one bonding, right, with the teacher. So yeah, Mahi, what did you feel about the session? You can tell if there is any feedbacks. We are ready to take it.
Yes, so it was very good. I loved the how you summarized every chapter in very briefly, and I understood a lot of stuff in all the chapters. And I was little scared about matrices and some other chapters that we are going to start newly because I haven't done them before. But the way you explain them to us, it seems very simple now.
Yeah, thank you. Like I am happy because, and again, the reason for opting for Akshay, sir, the reason is the same thing. He is pretty knowledgeable. Only thing is you have to extract from him because it's a whole year thing, right? That is the reason. Okay, Manik, how did you feel? Like, were you was Manik interactive?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
So it was quite helpful. So as Akshay sir summarized the whole maths in 10th grade, what are we going to do? For example, I didn't even know the full form of GST, so that was quite helpful. I didn't know the concept as well, so that's good as well.
Yeah. Last, I think we'll end with Shlok. Yeah, Shlok, how did you feel?
So the session was extremely helpful. I was going through my maths book yesterday, and almost half the chapters were new to me, and I didn't understand anything. But after this small summary, Akshay sir gave, I think I can plan ahead, and everything seems easy.
Yeah, please plan. Please plan. That's the thing. Okay. And for the sessions going ahead, everybody have to on their camera. Thanks for the initiative, Look. But yeah, that's the thing. So we have a rule. Yes, you can be on mute because we understand there will be a lot of things going behind your camera or behind your computer. But you have to on your camera and keep a dedicated book, right? That's important because he'll be solving tons of problems. He'll be solving almost everything in the textbook, all the examples and a lot of problems you'll be solving. Be regular with your homeworks. You will get good time to finish your homeworks. And all the teachers who have kept it right, like they are like pretty knowledgeable, very good. They are good in their own sense, right? So please make use of that, okay? And keep it interactive. Whenever you are not getting it, please make sure that you open up and tell things. Okay, this is not school where we don't have 20 students, 30 students. We have only 5 students. So please open up and connect to the teacher. Thank you so much. And please use the same link tomorrow. to join for the physics things. In the physics also, we'll be summarizing what all things are required: sound, electricity, so many things you would have studied. So that will be given by the same respective teacher. Okay. Okay then. Take care, guys, and also spread a word about our classes to people. Yeah, that will help us as well. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank you, guys.
Malik. Thank you,
Thank you.
Shlok. Thank you, Shlok.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Shlok Squire,
Yeah.
maybe. Yeah. And Mahi, thank you so much for joining. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Bye, sir.
Yeah. Bye bye.
Excellent, Akshay. Okay.
ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದಾರೆ.
Yeah, Shlok, you didn't miss anything as such.
Oh, okay, sir. Because I had like clicked on the leave button.
I know. I understand. We both are in the same boat.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, bye.
Bye, sir.
Bye bye.
ಈ ತರ ಹುಡುಗರ ಜೊತೆ